Just waiting for the recording to start. Great. So, hi, my name is Bukaya, and it's great to have you here. I'm the Dean of Academy for DigiClan. DigiClan is the, excuse me, DigiClan is the committee of digital marketing professionals, over 6,000 members across 4 countries and 24 states in Nigeria, for a start. But at this academy, what we try to do is bridge the gap in terms of knowledge, expertise, as well as empowering young people as well. But we then created something called the panel discussion, and this was aimed at mid to senior level professionals, because we think that that conversation should also be had, and not just basic or entry level conversations. So I'm positive. So I mean, if you have questions, most likely you're gonna have questions as you go along. I'm sure a couple of people probably maybe first time hearing ABM as a whole in terms of account management, account-based marketing. As a whole, I can remember sometime in 2021, I also took a course CXL majorly on ABM strategy, and where I worked, we had to convert the strategy as well to ABM. Also, as the Kpis, all opinions are mine and none of my employer. So they have Bukayo's opinions, and I'm very sure same thing for Uche and Toby as well. So we have personal opinions. So yeah, so I'll kick off, and I'll pass the mic to Toby to do an introduction, and then Uche can also do an introduction of herself. Thank you. Toby, your mic is on.
Thank you, Bukayo. I said I would have loved to read my bio.
I know it's very
if I start,
I spent a long time, but I asked for the bio.
I can do a lecture on it. So let me just introduce myself. My name is Toby Adekunle. Currently, I work with SK as marketing manager, Nigeria and Africa. So that's who I am. I think that would suffice for an introduction.
Great. Prof, I call him Prof. So over to Uche.
Thanks. My name is Uche, and I work at Google as an international growth consultant for Canada specifically. So I'll just keep my intro as precise as Toby's intro, so we don't all start reading off bios over here. So I think that would suffice for the sake of the conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you. So I think we'll start off with a much more rudimentary thing. I think I have mentioned earlier as well in terms of ABM, account-based marketing, and account-based marketing strategy. So today we're basically talking about how do you deliver ABM strategy in your company. So I'll shoot to Uche here. So what would you say in your words is account-based marketing for a start?
So why are you shooting to me directly? I'm assuming like it's a panel discussion and anyone can pick it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so to be honest, I don't really, if I would just come clean, or like Bukayo that has done a course on account-based marketing strategy, I haven't done a course like that. And I don't have a professional definition of what account-based marketing strategy is. But from my experience in the ad tech industry and marketing, I would say it's a form of B2B selling, in quote, because it's what's it called? What's this word? Where something's like a subset of something. So it's more like part of like B2B selling, but it's a more strategic way where you don't just approach your selling as a one size fits all and you just categorize all your clients as the same. You're more precise and strategic in your approach, whereby you can either categorize your potential customers by, say, industries or by tiers, or you can also categorize them by priority in terms of revenue or in terms of relationship. So there are multiple factors that would determine how you segment your business or segment your client profile. And I think the approach in which you take to address those different customers and help to solve their various business problems and all is what I would define as account-based marketing, basically. So, yeah, but I'm sure Toby would have much more.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Toby. But really, you really pretty much captured it.
Okay, exactly. Yeah, you did a good job already. And
So
if I will contribute to that, I remembered I think about 5 6 years ago while I was working with a technology company here, I dabbled into account based, and that's because I figured out that at some point the traditional B2B marketing wasn't working, right? I felt that there should be a way to target, some specific people who are not generally in the bucket of, the whole audience we want to reach. And I stumbled on account based, and I remember then I did a course with demand based, right, on account based. And like Uchechi said, I will try to simplify it, and I will use the word account based marketing. I think it's as simple as what the name is. So there is a target account, most times highly valued target account that you want to reach, but you need a strategic way to reach them, because if you reach them the way you are going to reach your regular audience, you will not get their attention, right? Let's take it a bit. Sorry, I'm a teacher. So let's take it a bit down to digital selling or digital or social selling, where it's been recorded that a lot of B2B, buyers, before they make a decision, a buying decision, they go online to check. They go online for information. They go online to search for vendors. So in that case, you also, as a seller or as a brand that you have a service, software, whatever it is, solution, product, you need to be strategic to reach these people, because definitely you are not trying to reach them traditionally. You're not working from one office to the other. You want to target an account. I'm not saying that traditional approach is totally off the table, but I'm saying that you need to be strategic. And when you are being strategic, it means leveraging on all your digital tools, set measurable goals for specific accounts that you have identified. And like I said earlier, highly valued accounts. You are not targeting accounts that are spending $25 with your business. You are not targeting accounts that are spending $100. You don't do account-based marketing for such accounts. So often than not, account-based is trying to set measurable goals for specific target accounts that contribute hugely to your bottom line. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And really, I think that really ties me next to the point, because I think you mentioned something about the difference between a traditional B2B. Because I mean, traditional B2B is either cold calling or soft introduction, or you probably use LinkedIn for LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and that's basically still cold texting users or cold emailing as a whole. And that's shooting to read into the blank. I think you kind of already answered the next question that I was going to speak about, the differences between the traditional marketing. But remember, like you said, there's a strategy to this in terms of how do you then approach this. Because I know that there are several types of ABMs, account-based marketing, that currently being used in the market. So personally, which one have you used in terms of the types, or have you used a combination of a couple of them? Which you should.
yeah, I wanted to touch on what you said earlier about B2B sales and being different from ABM, in that, like you mentioned, cold calling and LinkedIn and all of that. I wouldn't necessarily like take those as not being strategic, to be very honest. What I would say is not strategic is when you're just shooting via what's it called, broadcast messages on LinkedIn to everybody in the hopes of getting one person to respond to you. But I wouldn't discount LinkedIn as a veritable tool for, to put into to use for your account-based strategy if you've identified who your prospects are, like you've identified who you want to reach, you have already done your research, you know your niche market, like you've done all these things. If you do not want to come across as, one of those sales pests or whatever, you don't want to call people, I feel like LinkedIn is a very veritable tool for you to use to reach out to this fellow professional in the same industry. And how you craft your message and how you deliver your pitch in quote on LinkedIn would determine the response rate you're going to get, or would determine if people are going to get you. If you come to them with like, oh, I have this product to sell, just buy it, then of course you have a lot of people who are coming to them with similar business proposition also on LinkedIn. But if you define or identify yourself as a sales professional who have something of value to this particular person, ABM strategy is always successful when you have identified a problem that you know you can solve. So when you write to them or when you even cold call any of your prospects, you know that your chances of getting a feedback or being given a listening ear is high because you're speaking to their exact business problem. There are areas where like you've identified a couple of accounts, but the truth is you cannot identify an opportunity to plug your tool or plug your solution that you're trying to sell. They just don't need it at that point. So part of your strategy would be to segment your business to say, these are the people who I would like to reach in this industry. Out of all the companies here, these people have an obvious need for my product. So I would prioritize them because I know that they will definitely give me a time of day. If I show them the problem and show them how my solution can fit in, and also show them what the corresponding ROI would be if they deploy my whatever I'm selling. Then you identify the others who don't necessarily know that they have a problem. They don't know that they need your product. They're not even interested, maybe because they don't have the financial bandwidth to accommodate like your product. For those group of accounts, you would want to really focus on education, awareness, relationship building. Just you have like a more of a long-term approach for those kind of clients. And in all of this strategy, LinkedIn, cold calling, and all of this are still vehicles or tools that you can use. But again, you have to use them wisely or strategically to achieve your goals. So I just wanted to touch on that so we don't discount like LinkedIn and all.
No. I think so. You pretty much covered it. And it's very good. You talked about actually piggybacking in terms of strategy. So that's the major part in terms of actually doing your research, because that's the strategy part of things. You need to do the research. You need to understand the touch points. You need to understand what problem are you trying to solve so that you can craft your pitch to actually solve that problem, and then the type of people you want to speak to as well. So you had already predefined that rather than sending. So what I was majorly speaking about was people that blast us messages and then expect that. Exactly. So that wouldn't work because it's not strategic. I've seen different places when you properly define your ICP in terms of your customer profile that you're trying to target, and then you define the different types of clusters you're trying to reach. I think I've even answered the couple of questions I was going to ask.
Sure.
But there are several types. So the programmatic approach, trying to reach a wider array of audience without being specific to the decision makers, to a combination of both programmatic and strategic, as well as trying to reach like the strategic part of people in terms of there are lesser number of people to reach, but the deal size is a lot bigger. So for example, say they are like 200, 100 ICPs, but the deal size is around 50 to 100K minimum for a start. So yeah, that could be a bigger deal size. So in your experience or in your practice, which of these types of ABMs have you used? And I mean, it doesn't have to be one. It could be a combination of a couple of the types. But we majorly used to specify in one approach depending on what solution we're trying to pitch. I mean, anyway.
Okay, I think I'll let Toby go.
Yeah. For clarity, what are the types of ABM you are talking about here? Just to put things in context.
Yeah, so like 3 levels. So you have the approach in terms of programmatic, in terms of actually reading a lot of people.
Okay, one to few, one to many, one to one.
Exactly, one to many, one to one. Exactly. So one to one would then be the strategic level, and then maybe it's a mixture of a balance of both. Yeah.
Okay, like I said earlier, it depends on what exactly you're trying to achieve. Like I said, if you are
your experience, what have you?
My experience. Yeah, I think it's a mix of one to one, one to few, not really one to many. Right? Why do I say that? Is because I work with a technology company and we deal with different types of accounts, different types of brands. So sometimes you go into that account to identify the problem of a single account, right, amongst every other account, to say what are the problems they are facing, what solution do we have to this problem, then who are the key stakeholders within this organization that we can reach out to. And also remember that B2B is not B2C. We have the different levels, the influencers, the gatekeepers, all of those guys, the decision makers. You need to know what and how to reach them. I would have loved to take Uchechi on some of the things she said, because Personally, I'm a stickler of driving sales through engagement and effective communication rather than cold calling. I am not saying cold calling does not have a place, right, in the whole sales process. But I am very big because it's what I teach and it is what I've experienced, right? So you need to understand who are the people you are trying to reach, what are you trying to say to them, what are you communicating to them. What you will say to a decision maker will be different from what you will say to a gatekeeper or an influencer. For instance, we want to sell a solution at one point to banks, right? In that technology company I was talking about. And we needed to talk to the CEO. We needed to reach the CEO one way or the other. Nobody in the organization had contact. I'm telling you of what I've done with evidence. I can screenshot and share if you guys really want to see. So there was a particular bank. We needed to reach the CEO of that bank. And it was like, there was no lead to that particular CEO. Okay, I said, you know what I would do? I will do some series of posts on LinkedIn about this product, and I will reach out to that CEO on LinkedIn. Let's see what will happen. And I did 1 or 2 posts just talking about the benefits, some features of that product. And after a while, I sent the man a message. He's still there on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn. He responded, CEO of a popular bank. I won't mention the name of that bank. He responded. He said, wow, that he would like to hear more about this product, that I should fill a particular form to fix a day. Whoever sent that message, I don't know. Whether the PA or him directly, I don't know. He responded to me. We filled a form. We went there to talk about the product. No lead. You can hear that again. No lead to the CEO. Nobody knew any contact, right? Just based on engagement, talking about the value of what you offer. Because you can get the number of that CEO and call and start blabbing on phone. Hello, sir, I got your number from this. It doesn't really flow. Cold call comes last. It should be the last resort after you've engaged when it comes to content, when it comes. Which you don't mind.
My lord, may I? May I?
He's very excited, like, no. So
I'm like,
please, shoot.
why?
I understand. You are a business, as a matter of fact, senior business development manager for many years. It's understandable. And I'm right? But what I'm trying to say, jokes apart now, is you need to understand the people you are trying to reach. You need to understand the goal you are trying to achieve personally in your organization. What's your business goal? You know, a lot of the time, sales do not have direction. Everybody just want to go and sell. So there's no direction. Everybody's running a scat. You can't laugh. Everybody's running a tasketa. You know, so because there is no direction, people just enter the street and start talking to whoever. But if we are being strategic, ABM is strategical. If you remove strategy from ABM, it becomes traditional B2B marketing. It's strategic. And traditional B2B is not strategic. ABM makes it strategic. Thank you.
You're welcome, bro. I just wanted to... No. I mean, no, come on. Like, you're very right in that the first thing you said, which I totally agree with, is the profiling of your ideal customer and like identifying who you want to reach. That's one. And then you identify them with your goal in mind. And to your example that you gave about trying to reach a CEO, now you have already highlighted the problem that there was no one who could get a contact with the CEO. But part of ABM, which what I always like start with, is looking within your network of influence and your sphere of influence. Who do I know that knows the CEO? Because a huge part of ABM, in my opinion, is also relationship selling, where you leverage relationships to cut through all the bureaucracy and all this other stuff, and then you just get directly to the person, and you already have that emotional affinity built for you, more or less. And depending on the person who did the referral, you could piggyback of their, integrity or what they have built over time, and you would get like that kind of like a sentiment would be transferred to your product, whether it appeals or not. You're just looking for a listening ear, right? So in your case, if there was no one around you that, could get your phone number or anything like that, of course, you look for the next best vehicle to communicate your message or achieve your goal. And that's where like LinkedIn, how did I build what relationship?
I'm just asking questions. You mentioned
the
relationship.
No, I mean like if you say you want to identify someone in a bank, for instance, right? You look around, like if you've been in the industry for a while. I mean, I was asking for about a couple of years and already knew like a lot of people in the industry from banks, FMCG, everything. So if you want to get to a particular bank, you could have a colleague who actually works, whose family member or someone works in that bank, and who would give you like more inside information as to what is this CEO like in terms of personality, or how do I reach this person? What does he do? You have that inside information from people around you already. But say you don't have anyone to give you that information, then of course, which then leads me to my second point of what you did in that you went on LinkedIn to talk about the benefit of the product. And part of the strategy I deploy for ABM is, you said you have the gatekeepers, you've got the influencers, you've got the decision makers, and each of these people have different KPIs internally that they would like to hit, and that's what you use to get their ears. So a CEO is more interested in the bottom line business objectives, what would ultimately drive my business goals for me, right? The influencers or decision makers are just interested in, okay, what are the overall marketing goals that I want to reach, so that I don't get flogged at the next management meeting. The gatekeepers, who are the ones who you engage on a campaign level, are just interested in metrics and numbers. I was given a KPI to hit 20,000 clicks, and I have this budget and I have to reach it. And so the tone of your message to each of these levels of people would, bearing in mind what they're interested in, would influence how you reach them, what you say to them. Like imagine you didn't speak to business objectives in your LinkedIn post. No matter how much post you do on LinkedIn, the CEO would not even be interested in you or what you have to say, because you weren't talking to his pain point. So I would say, in my experience, back to Bukayo's question, I have deployed multiple ABM strategies just depending on what I meet on ground. I've deployed the one-on-one, I've deployed one-to-many. One-to-many, I usually term as scaled approach or scaled initiatives, where I want to reach a large number of people in a particular industry at once, and I do not have the, I would say, time. Like, it's more efficient, especially with COVID and webinars and all of this coming up. You're able to reach many industry players like at once, and you can get feedback. So I've deployed that, and I've deployed a one-to-few, where you have like specific, say, breakfast meetings for specific kinds of people to pass across your message. So I wouldn't discount any sales tool, in my opinion. You just have to pick the one that you're very good at. Some people don't like cold calling just because they haven't mastered the art of cold calling, and they don't even know that your tone, your confidence, everything resonates from the first time you pick a call. And as a salesperson, even whether it's B2B or whatever, you have to realize that you would get as many no's as you would get yes. So if you're scared of like the no's and people dropping a phone call, then the truth is you're not actually ready, because you have to go in with the mindset of, I know you have a problem and I want to fix it for you. If you don't want your problem to be fixed, that's great. What would then happen is, if I'm able to fix someone else's problem in your same category, I would hype the case study so much in your face, and you would know that you have a problem, or you would see them literally like growing faster than you, and ultimately they would be the ones to reach you, knowing that, I mean, it happened multiple times at Eskimi, like a lot of times. So I think you can't discount any sales tool, in my opinion. If one doesn't work, then maybe you're not speaking the right language. It's not maybe your strong suit. Like Toby, you're like a marketing person, so you have a lot of marketing knowledge that you can deploy on multiple like digital channels to drive home your message. Some people are more like relationship building, which is where I would say I sort of lean more toward, in that I've got the knowledge and everything, but I'd rather go through like relationship-based selling and hard selling where the case calls for it, So I think anybody who has done ABM would not, I'm yet to hear someone say, oh, I just stick to one method. It's just very rare, because like you have a lot of people in the pool, like in the industry. So.
Yeah, correct. Statistically, most people use all three, and all three brings the best results. And before that, then goes to two types, statistically speaking. So that leads me to the next thing, and this is where I'm very glad we have Uchi and Toby. I think we have like less than a minute. So marketing and sales, when it comes to ABM, profiling. I think we have mentioned quite a number of things of profiling. I need to profile who I'm thinking to. What approach would you say in terms of profiling do you use best? User buyer persona or much more of ICP in terms of ideal customer profile? Because one is much more qualitative, while the other is much more quantitative, or a mix of both, for example. So Uche, we shoot because of time, and then we'll take Tony.
Mix of both. I think, sales at the end of the day is a numbers game, in my opinion. No one
sales and marketing thing, because
no one cares how much relationship you have if the business is not growing. Even like if we take it out and apply to our own lives, imagine like you start up a business and you've invested a lot in that business, and you've got this business partner who's telling you, I did 50 LinkedIn posts and I wrote all of this blog message and people are commenting, people are engaging. And then you ask, yeah, but how many people are actually buying the product? Like, no, don't worry, I should give it time. Like in the next 2, 3, 4 years, we start seeing conversion. It's like, okay, we need to have a short-term plan to get that immediate sales first, while we have the long-term plan that would, ultimately convert in the future. So for me, I usually use a mix of both, just because I have what we call like short-term wins, which would keep you, in pace and ensure that your business is still surviving. And then you've got those who you have to deploy like a long-term approach of strategy for, just because you're trying to build a more robust relationship. And again, how I segment that is also based on the revenue, the potential revenue that the client is going to get. Because whatever you're going to get from that client determines the amount of resources you're going to pour into that client, the amount of time you're going to give to them, and the scope of your relationship with them. So I define by like my ideal customer profile, these are who they are. Then I go further to determine what are the high revenue opportunities, medium and low. And then the third angle would be high relationship, medium and low relationship. And then you merge all of this and you start implementing on your strategy to reach them. So I use a mix of both. I would say.
I think you need a lot more to in doing your research and with the QT.
Yeah.
But I think she's on the clock now. Thank you, Uche. I would then. Yeah, I understand.
I wish I could stay more, but it's been a pleasure. I have to leave now. Okay, actually, I've got 5 more minutes, so. Again.
Toby, do you want to shoot ICP by
without overflogging because of Uchechi. I think it's a mix of both, and she has pretty much touched on some of the key metrics that you consider when you're trying to deploy a strategy for ABM. So I would align with her on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So I was going to bring it back to clusters. So that question was going to lead me somewhere. So you know how ABM is focuses a lot more on clusters in terms of either choosing to define by geographical location or deciding based on industry vertical that you're going to look at before you then probably define your decision makers and other players in the situation. Would clusters be the way to go in terms of market development, or would you say penetration would then be the way to go in terms of expanding your existing audience, customers?
The question is not clear.
That question is not clear, yeah.
Okay.
That sounds like a research question.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be academic. So you know that. So because I think ABM is a lot more bigger on research. If you don't get your research right to create your strategy before you go to execute, everything you put in your pipeline would not achieve what they're trying to achieve for this. So I think it's 60 to 70% research and to create your strategy. If you miss it wrong, you would miss every other thing wrong, in my opinion. Like I had mentioned. But let me see how best I can rephrase that question. Clusters. I think I've defined clusters, either by geography or by industry verticals. So let's say FMCGs, they're trying to reach people like that, or trying to reach people based on profiling in terms of ICPs or personas. So let me illustrate. So I want to focus a lot more on people in banking and people based on the solution that you might have. I'm just assuming. people in banking and people in FMCG for a start, and then define those people there? Or do you say, I want to use this as my ideal customer profile, I want to go across different verticals by just using people that spend this marketing budget, fit the decision maker, they have a specific problem for me to approach? Does that kind of clarify the question?
Yeah. I think the question is clear. And let me use probably I should use programmatic or customer CDP as an example, right? So you want to sell a CDP, you have a CDP solution or a programmatic solution, and you have one particular solution that is designed for telcos, right? You have some high value telcos you are looking at, the big guys. You want to reach them. Does it make sense to start talking to the procurement manager? Does it make any sense? The first person you pick your call, procurement, got procurement. We have one nice solution. So ideal customer persona is still very relevant. After you've defined clearly your cluster, okay, based on verticals, it is mostly based on verticals. Which region? Regions still come back to who are the kind of people we want to reach? What solution are we selling? So the solution defines the vertical and defines the audience. So you know that you should be talking to probably the marketing director, if it's programmatic, the digital media buyers, you know who you should be talking to based on their levels. Like Uche said, at the top level, you might need some relationship. At the lower level, you might need some cold calling. You want to talk to the digital marketing specialist, you might need to do cold call. But still, I am not, a believer of cold call. But you might want to do cold call. Right?
So you're not having a good call at all.
I want to just keep talking.
No. I'll lean more to what Toby said. Like, the solution determines what you do. You can't choose clusters over persona just because there would always be a mix. Like, those clusters are not like, what's this thing? They're not independent or mutually exclusive from the personas. Like Toby said, you have a telco solution, right? You know that your cluster is the telecom industry, but then within the telecom industry, you need to find out who am I going to speak with about this solution that they would be interested in, like that falls within their job scope, that would help them, alleviate a business problem. And then that is when you go towards, okay, I think I would rather speak to the head of media buying maybe, or head of digital, blah, blah, blah. And then you just like trickle down. If that person says, oh, okay, this is great, talk to XYZ person, right? And then you've gotten that lead. So I don't think as ABM strategist, in quotes, you would want to say, well, I'll just stick to my clusters. You're still, shooting blindly if you're just choosing all FMCGs. Like Toby said, how many people, you have multiple people in an FMCG, like Nigerian breweries, for instance. Have you seen the amount of people they have there? Like, you can literally be speaking to someone in marketing and you're still not speaking to the right person. Same thing with Priceline Campaigner, right? It's like a ton of like multiple layers. So you still need to identify it. But I have to run now. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I think I'll watch the rest of the recording afterwards.
Thank you, Jay.
Are you leaving myself and
you guys will be all right.
I was going to ask you, Uche, 30 seconds before you go. 30 seconds. I want to cost.
Okay.
Working with sales and marketing, because Toby is more marketing. So in terms of a collaboration with sales, okay, sure. Working with sales and marketing, what challenges have you really faced personally in terms of ABM strategy? Because, like I mentioned, you need short-term wins to sustain, and then marketing is looking to do a lot more of long-term game in their own. What challenges have you faced personally working with that?
Let me just respond and be going. The fight will continue to Jesus comes, in my opinion, because the KPIs are just different for both. Like, people. A salesperson is always, if you're a good salesperson, you're motivated by like what you can get, like you're hitting your quotas, hitting your target, and that's like your key driver. You get your bonuses from there. You get all of that. So you're looking more your short term. Marketing talking their long term is like, I hear what you're saying. No, Shubon, let's find.
I feel your pain now. I feel your pain. I see why cold call is important.
No, well, I'm not, first of all, because I'm endorsing cold calling doesn't mean I enjoy doing it all the time. It will also always be my last resort just because I would rather get someone to do an introduction or whatever. But I'm just saying some people are pretty good at it. And I actually had to learn to be good at it while, like during the course of my career, you know. So, but yeah, sales and marketing, trust me, nobody has ever been able to find that solution. I don't think anybody will. If anybody does, please link me to that person just because our goals are vastly different in my opinion. So if Toby, for instance, if I was still at STM and Toby's, I would align with some of the things that Toby would do in terms of like only if it will achieve what me I want to achieve. So if we're planning like for the next quarter, for instance, and Toby is like, hey, Uche, okay, I have this program, like let's meet, we're gonna have, you know, these people, you've not been able to reach them for quite a while. I'm able to, through this event, we can get like the decision makers and everything to come in. Why will I fight Toby? Ultimately, if they come there, I will do what I want to do. I will sell and I will leave. But if Toby is giving me like 1 year's plan, I'll be hearing him more, but he has to give me a short term plan in the interim. So yeah, I think if anyone finds a solution, they should just let me know. We cannot always be aligned.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's
All
leave it
right.
to go.
Thanks, guys. Yes.
All right, Uchechi, thank you so much.
Everyone. Yeah, Toby, do you want to shoot? Because I know you say
Yeah,
people are
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Say people are not.
I think
I
that
wish it-
I strongly believe the success of ABM strongly depends on efficient and effective alignment of sales and marketing. And like Uchechi rightly said, I think that fight has been since the days of Adam and Eve. And it's like nobody can settle the fight. You know, one of the challenges I also faced at my former company where I was, doing ABM was to get salespeople to sit down. And remember, I told you one of my bosses used to say that salespeople are not smart. Thank God the chair has left. That they are not smart people. That they are not smart people. And Uchechi corrected the fact that they just want to sell. That's the only language a salesperson understand. You are bringing them on a strategy table. You are speaking English. Oh, Benny, Oga, come out here. I want to sell. I want to close deal. I have a target. A marketing person is telling you that no, let's do it this way. Let's strategize. Let's create this. Let's develop this. It's not making sense. If it's not turning to Naira and Kobo in the next 1 week. So for ABM to be successful, you need to align 100% with your sales guys because they're the ones directly engaging with these accounts. They have better insights than you do. All the marketing insights you need, the salespeople can give you. Oti wants to say something. The sales guys can give you. So if you are not well aligned, your ABM strategy is on a faulty foundation already. Let me allow Oti to speak. Oti, you have the mic.
Yes, who you have the mic.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to jump in based on the passion with which you were trying to distinguish sales and marketing people. And could it be that there is that middle line which is supposed to be business development, but it's often misconstrued as exactly the same thing as sales, whereas business development is a bit mid-term. So while marketing is long-term, sales is short-term. Business development is a very consultancy approach to sales, which recognizes the importance of time and relationships. Could that be something to consider here?
I think so.
Oti,
I think I
Oti.
agree.
Yeah,
But-
you might want to agree with Oti, but in this climb,
I think my question would then be, if you don't mind, what would then be
go
the
ahead.
KPIs for the business development manager? Because I think the motivation for it at times is usually the targets and a couple of other things like that. In terms of the middle line or the middle part, Oti, I'm trying this back to you. What would you then properly define as
This is how I would look at it. From a sales perspective, the sales tickets are usually not retain, or the sales operation is usually not retention oriented. You just want to get into the door, close that first deal, get into your target system, make the first sale, and move on. And then next thing you know, sales guys are passing it on to another department entirely and everything. Whereas business development is where I actually think ABM sits a lot. You are actually developing a more robust strategic relationship with that target account, where you're not just thinking of probably closing a one-off deal, but probably a continuous type of deal across multiple departments, across multiple levels. So you find that a biz dev guy will be very, very focused on affecting multiple departments within a single organization for a particular solution. He has to liaise with not just one department, but he's involved in procurement, he's involved in the actual users, he's involved in the blockers and the champions and everything. It's a whole process, right? Whereas sales, in my opinion, because of what you guys have just said around, oh, it's very instant close oriented. I need to make a sale now. You can probably make a sale for a $100,000 valued product, and you probably just get 10K, and that's it. You're done. Whereas a BD guy would have gone in, probably developed the entire account, and he's closing in 100K upwards because of the approach here. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I think I totally agree with you in terms of retention and a zoom out perspective in comparison to trying to close the deal in the short term. Because I think that leads me to my next question around resources.
So sorry,
Because-
Bukai, before you go to the next question, I would like to ask Oti. Oti, do you think BDMs in Nigeria is actually practiced as it's supposed to be, or is just a nomenclature to make you feel okay, you are more than a salesperson? I really want to get an insight. Looking at the Nigerian landscape.
It really, like, I think as you guys alluded, it varies across product type, verticals, and stuff like that, right? A single user product, for example, I'm trying to sell an account to an individual. I'm a banker. I want an individual to come and bank with us, right? Or a bank to come and bank with us. That's a one-to-one relationship. The use cases are not multiple type of thing. So for me, that's very sales oriented. But when there's a whole lot of decision-making process, multiple use cases, different benefactors, I see that as a business development type of sales approach. And it is practiced a lot within the software and tech industry in Nigeria, yes.
Yes. Toby, did you get that? I can't. I'm not sure if Toby get that. It looks like he's freezing.
Yeah, I got it. I would mute my video. I would disable my video. Yeah, thanks, Oti.
Okay. Yeah, I think I agree with that because that was going to lead me to the next question in terms of resources to actually practice an effective ABM strategy or in your account. Because Oti had already mentioned, I was going to talk about the different stakeholders of the different players to actually maintain an effective ABM strategy in terms of client happiness, client service, building the relationship, actually solving problems for an account in particular, rather than actually just looking at your products across several accounts that could be handled. So I think the next thing would then be, how would you then differentiate between an ABM buyer journey to an inbound buyer journey, Toby? And I mean, if there's any comments as well, that would be great. I'll try it to Toby from here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. So an ABM buyer journey and inbound is somewhat similar, but the difference is that for account based, right? And this is the difference because inbound is still more traditional based when it comes to B2B, kind of. So for account based, you're identifying your target companies or target accounts as a way, right? You're engaging them with personalized campaigns or messages, right? And at the end of the day, what you are trying to do, like what you also mentioned, is you are trying to build. Sorry, you might be hearing some noise. You are trying to build a lasting relationship, right, or relationships that leads to new and better opportunities. But for inbound is like you are throwing you are casting your nets wide, right? You want to gather as many leads as possible, leveraging content, leveraging all digital tools that's available to you. You want to nurture them with marketing automation mails, then identify your sales qualified leads, then try and sell to those who you can sell to. Can you see the difference? One is lean at the top and they're bigger at the base. The top of the funnel, right, for ABM is lean, while at the base is larger, while the top of the funnel for inbound is bigger, while at the base, sorry, guys, I'm making noise now. While at the base is lean. So those are the things you want to look at, but there are still some tools that you will use in your inbound marketing that you can also apply in account-based. But looking at the funnel, they are different. And I've just given a vivid description of the difference. I don't know if Oti has anything to say.
No. I think I'm aligned, or I agree with that. I'm not an ABM specialist, so I can't necessarily speak on the
So wait,
topic.
who is an
That's
ABM
why I joined
specialist?
to learn.
Oti, who is
I
an ABM?
don't think that market's maturity yet
Oti said, I'm not an ABM specialist.
to really implement ABM specialists.
Thank you, Bukayo. Who is employing ABM specialist?
But I really think it's the way to go. I think it's a long term, but man, it comes with the resources, anyways, in terms of cooperation and size of companies for you to deploy an effective ABM approach. But then again, I like to tell people you do not have to deploy 100% of the ABM. You could start off with what the current resources can do in terms of your strategic approach, and then you grow as the business grows to be able to deploy, find happiness, and looking at short-term growth, because survival at times changes everything entirely. And you do agree with me. We need to survive. We're at the point where the economy is great. I don't say otherwise. So then, Toby, if I could come back to, so we've talked about speaking specifically to clusters, and I think we defined that clusters are much more pertaining to verticals. Within the resources and messaging, of course, the messaging will be different to different type of people. Would you say the right way to go would be to create an entirely different marketing strategy specific to each vertical? Thinking about how much time consuming that would be. So, for example, say, would they have a different character and tone? Would they have a different landing page where you need to speak to them specifically? From experience, I know that there are several products I currently work where we have different landing pages for different products. Like there's a gallery for creative. There's an SSP thing that has a different landing page, and the communication is a lot more different to people. But I am very sure the resources will then come into place there. What would you think is the best approach if you don't have the resources to segment your marketing tactics? And then that's where it comes to the tactics that you use to still achieve an effective ABM strategy. Do you understand my question?
I get your question, right? So I think what is very important here is that, because what you said is the ideal, right? We should have a tailored message to a tailored vertical, explaining the challenges they are facing and how your product or solution is solving the problem. So you don't want to be saying something that is not my problem. Sometimes I receive some mail personally and I feel like, guy, what are you talking about? Right? But we know the climb that we are also, because what we like octopus, one person doing different things. So what you can do where resources are not available, right, is to look at challenges, from broader view rather than detailing it. So when you're looking at things from broader view, you can look at the whole telco, right? When you're looking at things from broader view, you can look at the whole financial services and focus on banks to say, okay, what is one challenge that is peculiar to the banks, rather than say what challenge or challenges are peculiar to commercial banks, microfinance bank. That's some level of targeting and detailing, which you might not really have the resource, So, but if you look at it also, you'll be tending towards inbound marketing and still the traditional B2B. If you really want to do ABM as a way, and that's why I said, I'm not a specialist. Nobody's a specialist, and we're out doing it anyhow. Because we don't have the resources and we don't want to, nobody wants to say, don't worry, your marketing should just focus on this account. But when you have a good marketing team, a larger marketing team, I think you can still achieve a bit of ABM where you've identified. Like I said, I kept mentioning the keyword, I value. If I know that these guys are going to contribute 50% to my target at the end of the month, why not? I can get the resource to deploy the right messaging to, if there's need to create a landing page, turn out content, email campaign, just to engage these people, try and build relationship also, visit to some of these companies, meet some of these stakeholders. It's still part of ABM, really. ABM is not just about digital. Sometimes you need to build relationship. You need to visit some of these key stakeholders that have influence on your business, right? So I think we can achieve it with minimal resource, depending on what we set out to achieve, and then we can also achieve it when we have good resource, depending also on what we set out to achieve. So the goal at the end of the day will determine the amount of resource that you will need. I don't know if that answers it.
Yes, it does, and I think he also answered the next question I was going to talk about in terms of you would rather.
Oti is raising up his hand.
Yeah, so I think I just commented there. We can go. I think after the next question, I was going to speak about talking about tiers in terms of 80% of the revenue should have 80% of your time by defining clients and your portfolio or your pipeline by the deal size and tiers of level. I think you already chose tiers that are above clusters. Oti, please, you have the mic.
Is there a recommended revenue value on accounts that warrants the ABM approach?
Is Oti asking me a question?
He's asking general for the door. He's asking both of us or anybody in the audience. I think, in my opinion, I think that's where we come to the types. When we started off talking about what types do we want to talk about, do we want to use the programmatic side? Do you want to talk about the medium size, or do we look at the strategy in terms of one-on-one, which is then defined by the deal size and a couple of other things? I think we have to properly define what our ICP would be to then decide, do you want to invest, do you want to go about an ABM strategy to do this? Because if you don't have at least the middle-term resources to achieve it, I would always say, play the short-term game for survival before you look at ABM. Because ABM needs like time to build things. You need to build relationships. You need to have tailored marketing. You need to client happiness, not just looking at closing the deal. You need to understand it. So the sales cycle is slightly longer compared to trying to close the deal at them. So if you cannot survive that burn rate, I would really advise that you don't use that for a start. I don't know if that answered the question. I can't say, hey, it's $100,000, but I'll say look at the resources and look at your burn rates, and can you survive that sales cycle to close the deal, to create a long-term strategy of bigger accounts that you can close.
Exactly. So I completely align and agree with Bukayo. So for instance, you've identified a business opportunity with an account or set of accounts, and you know that it's going to worth hundreds of dollars on the long run, right? And you know that you have solution or products that can address some of these needs. You want to create an ABM strategy for that because you are sure of what you're going to get at the end of the day. But you don't want to, create strategy for what is not even feasible and is not contributing significantly. And like Bukayo said, the resource that you need or resources that you need, you look at it. What am I investing into this thing? At the end of the day, what is going to be the ROI? If I deploy this same resource to other things, what am I going to get? Then you decide if it's something you want to invest in or not.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I think we have just less than 2 minutes. Any question from anybody before we call it a day? Anyone in chat section? Or Toby himself? Maybe Toby had a question for me personally.
Did I ask you a question?
Ask me a question. Don't worry.
Do you have any case study in Nigeria where ABM is practiced effectively and efficiently, or anyone? Do you have that we can go to see in Nigeria? I'm specific about Nigeria.
Nigeria. I think I've seen it work on a major telco in Nigeria. I wish Uche was here, but yeah, I've seen it work in Nigeria in a major telco where I currently work, and I've seen the accounts grow over time. Started with one stakeholder, then knowing the next stakeholder internally in terms of, like I mentioned, the influencers was identified immediately, and the influencers we're trying to push the influencers to actually get decision makers until we're able to get the decision maker on board. And then you now speak to, so for example, for an account, you actually speak to about 4 to 5 people on the same account, and you're even called to strategy meetings on their side internally because that relationship has been built. And that's also increased the deal size over time. To say, for example, if it's like 10M monthly, has gone to 50 million to 60 to 70 million on a monthly basis. I can't mention the brand, but it's a major telco in Nigeria as a case study.
Awesome. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We have this conversation regularly. So everybody here would definitely send the next discussion. We're trying to see if we can do this offline, but fingers crossed to decision on that. This is DigiClan. We have we try to have a panel discussion to just rub minds and understand what we're going through on a daily basis and see how we can do things better rather than just coming to teach or do a lecture. But for that, we have something we call DigiClan Masterclass, where it's much more of a lecture-based framework, and we have different topics speak at different points twice or three times a month. Twice a month for a start. Thank you so much for joining. The recording would also be shared on YouTube. You can check DigiClan YouTube channel. You find quite a number of resources that have been done in the past from different masterclasses over the years, and it's a bank for resources. Thank you, Toby. Thank you, Otsi, for your time, and thank you for everyone for joining.
Thank you so much, Bukayo. All right.
Have a great
Thank
evening.
you.
Good evening. Thanks.